What's the worst date you've ever been on? Story 1. I went out for dinner and a movie with a guy. I tried to chip in money at both, but he insisted that he cover it all. At the end of the night, we're sitting in his car in the parking lot of the restaurant we had just eaten at, and he asked for a BJ, saying, I bought you dinner and took you to a movie. It's the least you can do. Thankfully, I live nearby. I hopped out and walked home. Story 2. I went on a Tinder date with a guy who is now in my contacts as Dono Tancer Penis Pic. Prior to the date, he seemed normal. We texted and talked on the phone, then arranged to meet at a restaurant bar. He was cute, but definitely bitter about something. He was from California and apparently didn't like this new city we were in. He started talking about blowjobs and complaining about how uptight everyone here is about. He invited the waitress to a party his company was throwing. After sending back the French fries he ordered, I showed him a picture of my dog on my phone. He took out his phone and showed me a picture of his penis. We walked out of the restaurant together to get our cars from the valet. My car came first, and I left. He texted me later that he had my sweater. Apparently, I dropped it on the way out, and if I wanted to see it again, I'd have to hang out with him. R.I.P. Sweater. Story 3. This is a post I shared in a different thread. I went on a date with a girl from OkCupid. It was late-ish, about 9 p.m., and she sent me a message out of the blue. We talked for a while, and she wanted to meet up with food. I hadn't had dinner yet, so I agreed. We were to meet up at a local diner. Her profile picture was reasonable. Not my typical type, but not awful. What showed up, however, was not great. She was about 5'2" and somewhere between 190 to 210 pounds. Rotund is the best word. That would have been fine if she wasn't toadish. I'm trying to be nice here. That would have even been okay. But it wasn't just her. She had brought her friend along, a 16-year-old. I was 22. She was 20. To compound that, her friend had brought her toddler along. Oh, and her friend brought another friend. So here I am with 3 girls and a toddler that I don't know. All 3 of the girls had brought Monster Energy into the restaurant with them. We sat down at the table, and it just went downhill from there. The toddler ran out of juice in her sippy cup, so the mom filled it with Monster. She then let the toddler play with the sugar container, one of the shaker-style ones, big cylinder with a little flappy thing. She promptly poured sugar all over the table and started licking it up. Meanwhile, all the girls are laughing at the toddler and having a great time. They're talking amongst each other and not even attempting to include me in the conversation. After about 5 minutes of them ignoring me, they started talking about guys from high school. Long story short, I ate half a chicken sandwich, excused myself, apologized to the hostess waitress for the mess and the awful people, left a 50 and got the out edit obligatory. Thank for the gold. Stranger, may you never go on a date as awful as mine. Story 4. Went on a date with a guy who seemed really cool. He used to race bikes until he landed on his head after attempting a jump. During the date, he 1 told everyone we were on a date. Everyone 2 told me he wanted to kill his ex-roommates. 3 asked the waitress to make the date more romantic. So she brought out a giant ice cream sundae meant for 2 people to share. He ate it all by himself and spilled ice cream all over himself. 4 bragged about beating the world record for the jump on which he landed on his head. 5 kept asking me if I was a gold digger because he makes tons of money and needs to protect himself. 6 demanded separate bills, no big deal. 7 all 4 of his credit cards were declined. Asked me if I didn't mind paying and he would get it next time. Not that there would be a next time ever. 8 told everyone that the date went splendidly. 9 gave me stickers to his welding company as a thank you for paying, since his credit cards must have some kind of error. Edited to add the sticker I got for paying for my dates tab. Story 5. Finally, a place to tell this story. I had a very disappointing date in high school. It was the dead of winter, like 40 Celsius. We had gone to a movie, and the whole thing was really awkward. She didn't really seem to want to be there, was very detached. After the movie and the bus trip home, she admitted that the only reason she even agreed to the date with me is because my friend had turned her down a few days earlier. I wasn't aware of that at the time. That a pretty big letdown and waste of time. But I figured whatever, I'll head home and find something else to spend time on. I'll get over eventually. I got off the bus and just wanted to get home as soon as possible. At the bus stop, there's a thigh-high railing around the front of the nearby parking lot. Instead of walking around it, I decided to step onto and then over it. The second I stepped onto it, I realized it was coated in ice. I Charlie Browned the out, just flipped through the air, lost everything in my pockets, ripped my pants from a zipper, and then came down hard right onto the railing with my shin, fracturing it. It's still 40 out. I can't just lay there till help comes. So I fish around in the snow, grab my stuff, try to stuff my back into my pants, and stagger home. TLDR, it's not me, it's you. Limped home in the wind. Story 6. Met her in adult soccer league. Asked her to grab breakfast that weekend. She accepted, picked her up, took her to a hole-in-the-wall diner, ordered the garden omelet. Throughout the meal, she talked about all that she was into: breath play, being dominated, being hit but not too hard, whips and cuffs. As Kevin Hart would say, she was getting too kinky too fast. got the check, realized my wallet was in my gym bag from the night before. I apologized. She paid for us both. I took her back to her place. She invited me in, and I couldn't refuse as she had just bought me a meal. An hour later, after the dirtiest of my life up to that point, we were lying in bed when she gets a text and panics. "Oh my God, you have to leave. My boyfriend got off work early, and if he finds us, he'll kick me out." This is the first I'm hearing of a so. And I realized that I just a chick on her boyfriend's bed after she bought me breakfast with money he gave her. Fuck. So I throw on half my clothes, jump into my car, and knock over the mailbox in my rush to get the out of Dodge. When I get home, I see that my rear bumper has a nice new crack. TLDR, took girl out for breakfast, forgot wallet, had too kinky, found out she had a long-term boyfriend, damaged my car in my getaway. And now she keeps texting me. Story 7. Back in college, I was invited to an ice rink with a girl I liked and some of her friends. I did not know how to ice skate, and I did not pick it up very quickly, but I wanted to try and impress her somehow. Well, I hugged the wall the whole time and made a fool of myself. The highlight was when I saw a flash of light as I fell in front of a group of people. Turns out I had fallen right at the moment someone took a picture, so my failure was immortalized forever. She took me back to my apartment and ended the relationship before it began. On a lighter note, the woman who is now my wife was at that ice rink on that night. We didn't realize we were there the same time until a year or two into our relationship, and she exclaimed, "You were that guy who couldn't ice skate." Yeah, she didn't seem that into you. Story 8. Guy told me he just recently got out of a long-term relationship. So he wasn't looking for a commitment, but asked me if he could be my maintenance man as he stroked his penis through his jeans. Story 9. I've got a couple meet a guy from OkCupid. He seems nice, but never stops talking. After interrupting me for the third or fourth time, I finally ask him, "Do you want to hear anything I have to say?" He apologizes profusely, says, "You're right, I'm so sorry," and pulls out a pad of paper and a pen. He then jots notes as I'm telling him about myself and whatnot. I finally ask him what he's doing, and he says, "Oh, I'm writing down things I want to tell you when it's my turn to talk again." Met another guy from OKC. He knowingly used pictures that didn't accurately reflect the way he looked and kept saying, "You look just like your pics," in shock. He then told me I reminded him of his mother, like it was a good thing. Edit, didn't think this would blow up. I did end up giving guy one a second chance. He said he was just nervous. But on our second date, he had burned me a CD of his favorite music after I had already told him I don't really listen to much music, and had written hundreds of decimals of pi out on the makeshift CD cover. I also hate math. He didn't really listen to anything I had to say, so I let him down easy. Story 10. I was really young, probably about 15 or so. I was boy crazy. I had a crush on every guy who even remotely expressed an interest in me. But this guy, there are no words to describe this guy. His name was Jesse. We met through a mutual friend, and while he wasn't exactly my type, he told me he thought I was pretty, and so I wanted to give him a chance. A couple weeks later, we decided to meet up at the mall for our first official date. He was very sweet. We were holding hands, typical teenage bullshit. But then he got weird, very weird. We're sitting on this bench, and he turns to me and stares at me right in the eyes and says, "Wow, when I look at you, and I look in your eyes, I feel like I'm looking into your soul." Okawe, I'm 15 and desperate for an epic love story. So I just smile. He goes on, "DFTB awesome. I know this seems soon, but I think you might be my soulmate. I can't wait until the day we can get married and have babies and live together. We're going to have such an amazing life together." So let me recap. I'm 15, I'm on a first date, and my date just essentially proposed to me. I noped the out of there and never talked to him again. TLDRHEY, I just met you, and this is crazy, but you're my soulmate. Please have my babies. Story 11. He was more than 3 hours late and was texting me telling me that he was 20 minutes away for 2 of those hours. As soon as he arrived, he tried to tell me to leave the part of the venue dive bar ID already paid into so we could go where he wanted. Tried to start a fight with a friend ID happened to run into, and called my aunt who'd talked me into going out with him in the first place of cockblocking. I just walked away from him after that last one, and we never spoke again. I waited so long because I liked the bands that were playing. I wouldn't have stayed if I was sitting around doing nothing. He got there just before the last band finished, but ID had about enough of him by then because had been telling me that he was on the train in the same place for 2 hours. We don't live out in the middle of nowhere, and he could have easily gotten a bus or a tram the rest of the way in that time if there was a problem with the train. He never gave me a proper excuse, but I didn't really care at that point. Story 12. I went on an online date with this guy when I first moved back home from college. We met up, and I have a habit of telling my parent I'm going out. They'll be back later with specifics, etc. Anyway, this time she says just be careful, and if he can't drive, get out the car. We were en route to our first destination, and it was closed. So he asked me where I wanted to go, and I said, Hooters and bowling. I know, keep it classy right here. His driving was so reckless, really bad. Anyway, we ended up going across town because he wanted to take me to this one place. By this time, I've determined I'm not into him, and I want out, so I just go along with it. Maybe we can be friends, right? His brakes give out, and we end up having an accident. We ran into the back of a truck pretty hard, and I forward, glasses flying off after the smoke settles. When I'm nervous, I start laughing. He asks if I'm okay. I said sure, and I'm looking for my glasses, and he goes, well, this is bad, really bad. So I said, why, no insurance? He says, no, I have a warrant for my arrest. He gets out the car and runs. As he's running into the sunset, he's yelling back at me, I'm really sorry. I can't afford to go to jail again. The person we hit leaves. So, I'm the only one there, and police show up. I had to call my parent to come pick me up because I have no friends in the area, and of course, I gave the cops his info. I knew I wasn't going to talk to him again. The police gave me a ride to a gas station across the street as I was waiting for someone to pick me up. I leaned back, took a picture in the cop car, posted it on Facebook, and tagged him in the picture. Somewhere in between the running, he found time to get on Facebook and block me. Bad part about not just the accident, I didn't even get a chance to enjoy Hooters and wings. Story 13, I'm walking down the street, just finishing a conversation on my old, craptastic flip phone. Just as I'm hanging up, wham, I know into someone and drop my phone. I apologize, grab my phone, and head back to work. 10 minutes later, I get a phone call. Hey, I think we switched phones by accident. Turns out the girl I bumped into had the same phone as me. Anyways, we plan to meet a local coffee place after work that day to trade back. I walk up and see this very cute ginger wearing a suit dress. We chat for a bit. Turns out she works at a bank, likes what I like, and is totally up for getting dinner this weekend. Great. Saturday evening rolls around, and I swing by her place to pick her up. Out her door walks a girl who looks remarkably like said date, only instead of professional office clothes. She is wearing 4-inch platform boots, fishnet stockings, some sort of corset-like top, and in spiky hair. Now, normally I don't really care about a person's style, but I was a bit taken aback. Who cares, I think, and jump out to open the door. Cue witty banter. Everything is going great. She's laughing at my jokes, and her humor seems to match mine perfectly. She asks what the plan is for the night, and I tell her I'm going to take her to my absolute favorite high-quality dining establishment and get her a Big Mac. If she plays her cards right, I might even supersize it. She runs with the joke, and even one-ups me. My spirits are high. She might have wild-fashioned, but this chick is cool. We arrive at this nice pub in town, and I turn off the car. What about McDonald's? Legit confused look on her face. I laugh, and upon seeing her face stop in confusion, we head inside and order dinner. I have a scotch, and she orders the biggest boot this restaurant has. Glass boots of Bud Light I've ever seen. The waiter comes over and takes our order. As he's leaving, my date whispers rather loudly, I can't believe they let his people in such a classy place. We should probably check our food for spit before we eat it. Our waiter is black and has ears. So I am beginning to panic. She continues her whispered commentary on the supremacy of whites, all the while putting away an obscene but impressive quantity of beer. Dinner arrives, and she makes a point of checking her plate for saliva. Waiter, and I make eye contact, and I like to think that he understood that I agreed with him that this girl was nuts. So, 3 more boots of beer later, she excuses herself for a bathroom break while I take care of the check. I apologize profusely to the waiter for my date's conduct. Dude is a true gentleman. Don't worry about it, man. There are all sorts of people in this world. My date returns, and we head out. In MY car, she pulls out a cigarette and lights up. Doesn't even bother putting the window down. We should go shooting out on my dad's farm. What's your favorite fun? I vaguely excuse myself from such activities and point out that it is rather later and time to go home. I drop her off at her house, and she says this was great except for that waiter. We should totally go get that Big Mac next time. See you soon. I flee. TLDR, meet a cool chick. Go on a date with her. She turns out to be a huge racist. She asked me to go shoot guns with her. Edit, tell me you understand that by saying, and he has ears, you understand that means he heard her, happened to my cousin. No, not me, my cousin, and I will tell this story till I die, and I lived together at the time. She worked at a tanning salon. She mentions this guy Vaughn that started coming in, and he's really hot and always flirts with her. So I guess 2 weeks after back and forth flirting, Vaughn asks her out on a date. She comes home, gets all prettied up. I wish her luck. Tell her to please call me if she decides to stay over. So I know she's okay. She's a few years younger than me, and I have no idea who this guy is. Anyway, she ends up calling me about 5 hours later, hysterical, bawling her eyes out, can't understand a word. All I can make out is I'm in the hospital. My car is at blah 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 address. Please go get it then, come pick me up. So my boyfriend and I go get her car, we drop it off at our house. Then my boyfriend decides to pick up a couple buddies of his along the way because it sounds like someone needed in kicking. We had no idea what was going on. We get to the hospital and she's outside shivering. A man is standing near her, but not beside her. He looks worried, and she looks like she jumps in the car and screams, just drive. Me being mad, as say to the guy, are you Vaughn? He looks like he's going to cry any second. He says, yes, please don't be mad. I brought her here. I had to. She didn't want me to. Please let me explain. My cousin is in absolute hysterics at this point. punching the back of my seat. Please go. I said, I don't have time to listen to you. She wants to go home. I need to take care of her. We drive home. I keep asking what happened. Please tell me now. Did he hurt you? Do we need to call the cops? Her response is no. Please. Nothing like that. He'll tell you at home, not in front of other people. So I left it at that. Dying inside, no. We get home. I tuck her in bed, give her some tea, try and calm her down. Every time she tries to start explaining, she buries her face and cries. Finally, I get out of her. After she left our house, she met him at his house. They talked and had a coffee, and he asked what she would like to do. She suggests a movie. He said, okay, let's go to Blockbuster. They go to Blockbuster. This is where it all starts. They pick their movie and head to the cashier. She says she doesn't feel so good and remembers waking up on the floor. Vaughn told her she passed out and hit her head pretty hard on the counter. She said he was begging her to go to the hospital right then and there. She said, no, it'll be fine. Let's just go watch the movie. He agrees. They get back to his place. He keeps asking if she's all right, if she would please change her mind and go to the hospital. She says no over and over. She said she doesn't remember falling asleep, but she guessed that's what happened because suddenly wakes up urgently needing to and vomit. She has no idea the layout of this guy's house, so she scrambles to the floor, feeling dizzy again. Starts crawling, literally asking where the washroom is. He tries picking her up to take her, but she said she couldn't hold back. Throws up all over his floor, all over him, shits in her pants. She starts crying. She said he was so concerned. He didn't even care. He just took her to the bathroom to finish. While they make it to the bathroom, she said she pulls her pants down before she makes it to the toilet and shits like a parrot all over the walls. He gently closes the door and says, pass me your clothes, and he has something for her to wear. She agrees and does so. She said she stopped vomiting and shitting and finally agreed to go to the hospital. He takes her, and then shortly after I got that phone call, while she's telling me this, I am laughing so hard, crying, rubbing her head, and wondering if this is all a joke. No, because they ended up getting married, and we bring this up at least once a year. Edit my apologies to everyone reading my giant wall of text with no paragraphs. I honestly was not expecting this reaction. I was at work and so excited when I saw this question pop up. I wrote it too fast. I'm a pro at telling it IRL. Typing, not so much. I'm also relatively new to Reddit and am on mobile. I'll stop making excuses. Again, I'm sorry. I will edit as properly as I can. Also, thank you everyone for the kind words. It was a surprisingly happy ending, and I truly do love telling this story because of that fact. Though, be honest, I was kind of hesitant to tell the internet, hoping it would just get buried. My cousin and Vaughn do not Reddit, but I think I may ask them now. One more thing, I know this is a lot of Reddit users' pet peeve, but thank you, stranger, for the gold. What everyone says, Reddit is awesome. You're not all a bunch of trolls. I'm glad this made people laugh, and hopefully not curl in embarrassment at their own shitty first date story. Because this one really does take the cake, lol. I was on a first date with a girl I had met through doing some community theater, who had gone to the movies to see Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Before the movie, we were chatting and slowly realizing that it definitely wasn't meant to work out. We just had too many conflicting interests and opinions. It made the experience incredibly uncomfortable, especially because we started lightly arguing over things like politics and religion. I was young, and I was an idiot. Anywho, before the movie started, I texted another friend of mine to tell her the friend how terribly the date was going, and then I heard that fateful sound. Immediately after clicking send on my phone, my date's phone chimed. She pulled it out of her purse and read whatever text had come in. She then slowly turned to me and asked, "Did you mean to send that to me?" I immediately realized and explained that I had just opened up whatever the most recent message in my inbox was and replied to that, with the intention of texting my friend, or perhaps clicked the wrong name in my contacts list. They both were the only names beginning with M in my phone. Needless to say, she was pretty upset. I explained that, despite our differences, I really enjoyed her company. I really did, because she was brilliant and beautiful, certainly out of my league. So we continued the date as friends, which was more awkward than we had anticipated. After the movie, we went our separate ways. When I got back to my apartment, I texted that same friend again about how that date was incredibly uncomfortable, and I doubted that there would be a follow-up. My phone chimes. You sent it to me again. Story 14 wasn't necessarily the date, which was bad on its own, but the fact that she hung out in my parking lot for 2 hours after she dropped me off in case I changed my mind about doing something after dinner. Story 15, a few years ago, I was going through a breakup, a shitty one. The guy was emotionally abusive, that sort of thing, so I was super excited when this hot guy I met at work asked me out. He picked me up and told me he really wanted to go see that Twilight movie. So, even though I'm not one of those girls that really got into the Twilight thing, I said, sure, fine, let's go see it, lol. He didn't mention it was opening night for that movie, so we stood in line for an hour with a ton of teenage squealing girls. So we're standing in line, and who turns around and makes eye contact with me? My abusive ex-boyfriend's sister, who I never liked to begin with. Even before the relationship went bad, we finally get in the theater, get our seats, and who sits right next to me? Yup, the sister, literally sharing an armrest with the... So, I sit through the movie being bored and not in a twilight. I'm just not pissed nervous sitting next to the sister, and annoyed because every time the werewolf guy took his shirt off, the girls in the theater would yell, whoa, so when we finally frickin' leave, we go back to his place for some drinks. One thing leads to another, and he asked me to spend the night. I agreed, even though I didn't really feel like staying there, but I didn't want to drive after drinking. Let me also note that this guy was horrible in bed. Worst ever, he was terrible. In the morning before he went to work, he said, I want you to be here when I get back. Me, well, okay, we can hang out again, but I want to go home and shower and whatnot. Him, no. Don't leave, please. I really wanted to be here. Me, okay, he'll stay, I guess. His begging gave me the creepiest vibe at this point. I wait 10 minutes after he leaves, and I bounced and never looked back. And now he's in jail awaiting trial for murder in Ellen. It was all over the news a few months ago. Made a throwaway account just for this post. I paid him $20 in gas money to come pick me up because I lived fairly far away and figured it was fair. I then paid $45 for dinner plus a $7 tip. Then I bought $25 in shisha to smoke hookah together because he loves it, but was out of shisha. He then demands in almost a rapey way, and I declined because it was a first date. I wasn't even liking him enough to kiss him. He did this half-cry thing in which no tears came out, but he was sobbing. I ended the date there and asked to be driven home. He said he'd drive me home if I had with him. I ended up taking a taxi home. I waited outside his house for 2 hours late at night waiting for the taxi. That's a whole other story of bullshit. Taxi company every 30 minutes kept saying, we'll be there in 10 minutes. Nope, 2 hours. Whole trip together cost me over $200 to have the worst date of my life. FTR, I don't mind paying for gas or dinner, that's fine, but then to treat me like you, not the worst, but definitely the weirdest. I was on a date with this girl who seemed great, good-looking, funny, shared similar interests. First date. And we're sitting in some bar that she's a regular at discussing ourselves when it starts getting to the basic first date question. So, you said you work in an office, but is that what you really want to do? I asked, did you go to school for it? Actually, she says, reaching in her bag, I'm currently going to clown school. You know, this girl had pulled out a red clown nose and put it on. Now, if this was our third date, I would have been less shocked. However, we had been talking for a week, and this is the first date. We were supposed to impress each other, but she was good looking, and I wanted to hook up. Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know clown school was actually a thing. Oh no, it's competitive. I had no idea. So are you in clown university, clown college, clown technical school? And then she took my joke as an attack. For clown, she had a terrible sense of humor. TLDR, went on a date with an angry clown at it. Yes, I know it seemed dismissive, but who the pulls out a clown knows on the first date? Story 16, one time, I went on an OkCupid date, and everything was normal until the end. She was a cute, blonde girl that liked some of the things I liked. We seemed to make each other laugh via OkCupid chat. So I asked her if she wanted to meet. She said sure. We met up at the Elephant Castle in San Francisco. It's a popular bar and has enough room to have private conversations. I was kind of nervous and didn't want to drink because I was on medication, but she called me out, so I ordered what she ordered, a pear cider. We go upstairs and nervously talk. At first it was awkward, but we both seemed to loosen up quickly. She has a darker sense of humor than I expected, bringing up topics like burned bodies discovered on the side of the road and making jokes. I'm into it and play along too. Everything seems completely fine and normal, and I start maybe to even like her. And she touches me playfully, and it just seems completely normal and easy. Then suddenly, without anything weird being said or anything happening, no phone call or emotion or reaction, she gets up and just walks away rapidly. I was so confused by the suddenness. I thought maybe I had missed something she said and followed her through the crowded bar. She increased her speed. She never looked back at me or anything. She just kept going for the door. I thought maybe she was having a panic attack or something like that. But when we got outside, she was completely fine. She kept walking away at top speed when I finally said, hey, wait a moment. She turned around with this look on her face like she didn't know who I was and said, yes, I was like, oh, that was so sudden. I mean, I just wanted to say goodbye. Maybe we can shake hands or something. I didn't really know what to say, and I tried to make a joke thinking about the least intimate greeting. She said why as she stuck out her hand and put in mine awkwardly. Then she turned around and hightailed it out there. I took a minute and looked at her walk away, and I tried retracing my steps of what we said and did and tried to think of why she reacted like that. I really felt like I must be the shittiest person ever. What I didn't notice while thinking was that there was this huge crowd of people smoking outside the bar. I mean, it must have been 50 people just all around the bar, and we had been standing right in the center of them. I didn't notice at first, but after she left, they all started cracking jokes about me. Like tons and tons of jokes, and it was like suddenly I could hear them. So I kind of looked around me, realizing what was happening until I recognized the jokes were about me. Finally, one very tall black dude smoking a clove shouted loudly, "Ah, Romeo, you that up, look how fast that is walking." Everyone just erupted in laughter. I was so double stunned that I just kind of walked away slowly back toward the BART station. As I walked, I heard that same voice yell, "Ah, Did I hurt that guy's feelings? Sorry, brother. That's not the worst date I've been on, but it was one that I think a lot in the shower when I feel depressed. Story 17 went on a blind date with a lady who wouldn't stop picking at her scabs. Just made a pile out of them on the restaurant table. I excused myself to use the washroom, and when I came back my soup was there, but the pile of scabs wasn't. No, I didn't eat the soup. Story 18, we spent most of the date going shopping for clothes for another date she had later that week. It's kind of funny seeing as how she was the one that asked me out. Story 19, about 10 minutes from picking a girl up, she asked me to pull to the side of the road to take and then proceeds to in front of my car. Edit, this is now my most upvoted comment. So thank you for making me laugh about it again. Story 20, I was at a good-sized house party in college, and the host introduced me to his lab mate shortly after I got there. We got to talking while things were warming up. No one was tanked yet, and people were still arriving. Eventually, the lab mate asked me for my number. He was okay looking, seemed a little dull, but harmless, and I agreed. We barely knew each other, but why not? It's college. You meet people and have a series of terrible and meaningless relationships. He disappeared shortly after. I didn't think much of it because the house was decent-sized and figured he wandered off. The party ended around 3 when we were out of booze. The next morning around 8:30 a.m., I got a call. Barely conscious, maybe still a bit drunk. I answered like an idiot. It was him. He asked me out for a nice steak dinner in church that evening. To get him off of the phone as quickly as possible so I could go back to sleep, I agreed to whatever he was asking without really understanding the question and awoke around noon with no real memory of the conversation. He called me a few hours later asking me for my address so he could pick me up. Memories came flooding back. I gave it to him, hastily showered, put on makeup and a nice outfit. Regretting agreeing to this, but looking forward to the steak, and went down to my apartment's garage to meet him. He was dressed short of schlubby, but I figured that a grad student for you. I didn't think a nice place would really turn us away. As he drove, he proceeded to flip through dozens of songs, mostly Elvis, never letting one finish, sometimes starting from the beginning of the same song, several times in a row. I heard the first minute of You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog more time than I care to admit that night. He then revealed to me he didn't like music, and everything on his iPod was from his dad borrowing it for a road trip. It was a 64 gigabytes big for the time, and expensive with around 100 songs on it. Utterly bizarre and distracting. It also turned out he didn't really like anything, couldn't name a book he'd read since high school, or even one he enjoyed, didn't watch TV, but was lurking while his roommates were watching Faulty Towers, but didn't understand the humor. Didn't have a favorite movie. His reply was, I like everything. When I asked and said he liked Titanic, didn't play video games. Didn't know Harry Potter was a book series before a movie. Favorite food was Taco Bell. What had I gotten into? We were heading to a nice part of town, past a couple of nice restaurants, and I eagerly asked him where we're going to end up. He replies with a vague, oh, you'll see. To keep the conversation going, I asked where he disappeared to last night. He said he left because his bedtime is at 10:30 p.m. sharp every night. I asked if that's why Head called me so early. He seemed surprised and thought Head, given me time for sleeping in. Holy, my apprehension grew. He then turned suddenly into a Denny's parking lot. We go in, I'm way overdressed. We're seated. I figure I was promised steak. Am getting one, even if it's nastiest, most gristly slab of beef in the city. He turns to me and eagerly asks if I'm okay with splitting. I was tempted to buy us each our own steak, but to be polite and to not embarrass him I agreed, resolving to eat a proper dinner at home. The steak came, we split. I tried to not feel the judgmental eyes of the staff on me, and proceeded to church. It was a Saturday night young adult service with contemporary music, and was supposed to be some sort of place for the non-secular devout to hang out on Saturday nights instead of drugs and rock and roll, I guess. Whatever the heathens do. Free coffee and stale donuts. During the singing, large group of people would jump up onto the pews and furiously bounce along to the music. Belting out the lyrics, he was smiling, clapping his hands along to the music, and interjected with him waving his arms in the air. I was dying a little and couldn't wait to leave. They had a thankfully short service on keeping yourself pure, and my horror grew, to the point I think I could power a small city with it. He was nodding along vigorously with the pastor, with the occasional aha and other grunts of agreement. Did he bring me here to convert me from my sinful ways? The evening could have gone so much worse, but thankfully he didn't ask me what I thought of the service, or maybe he was astute enough to detect my ire. He took me home without incident. My roommates piled on me asking how it was. And well, I told them the same thing I'm telling here. TLDR, met guy at a party. He was painfully dull and took me to Denny's and church. An OMO, REF, REEC, and TSP. Easy, I'm not sure if it could be considered a date. I've detailed this one in the past, from the internet dating catastrophes, and that post still gets comments on it. I'll retell this one, though, and link the comment if people want to see it. I was talking to this fairly attractive girl on OkCupid. I know, right? I had left up a picture on my profile back when I had a lot of weight on me, about 300 pounds at 510. The picture was really only about a year old. After much exercise and dieting, I was about 190 and in great shape. I didn't think much of the picture and thought it would help to weed out the shallow girls. This fairly attractive girl, we'll call her FA for short, wanted to meet up. FA had some of the geeky interests I'd sought, and like I said, attractive I was shallow, yes, but we had enough in common. We decided to meet at the Denny's in the college town. I went there after work, and she sent me a text saying she was inside already. I go inside and let the hostess know I was there to meet someone, and she was there. I described her, and the hostess said that she hadn't seen anyone like that. About a minute later, I got a text from FA, and it said something like, "I only like bigger guys." Sorry, I don't remember what the actual text said. This was 2 years ago. It's still the only moment in my dating experience where being in shape was a negative for me. For all those curious, I am fat again, nothing near what I was, but I put on about 20 pounds due to my current GF being preggers and forcing her cravings at me. But I have no fear I'll get back down to fighting weight. TLDR, a few burritos may have got me a soulmate that night. Alas, celery still makes me sad. Edit original post of internet dating Disastrous guy. I liked, and I went to the movies. It was our first official date. I try to sit down, but he grabs my hips, and I end up in his lap. I try to get up, but he holds me down. Eventually, I give up because it's not too big of a deal. I'm just sitting in his lap. The movie starts, and the room goes dark. Then later, he starts trying to pull my jeans down, and I'm trying to get up without causing a scene. Somehow, he gets both of her jeans down, and I'm trying to get away. At this point, I should have just screamed, but I keep thinking about how I'm supposed to be quiet during a movie and how embarrassing it would be. I kept telling him to stop, but he wasn't listening anyways. It happened, and I came out of that movie theater embarrassed and angry and helpless. He was bigger than me and stronger than me. I couldn't defend myself. It was my own fault for not being able to make him stop. TLDR, my then brand new boyfriend, had his way with me at a movie theater. Despite my protests, edit for clarification, this was over a year ago. We are no longer together because of his touchiness. I'm now much happier with a guy that showers me with affection and cheesecake, which I appreciate very much, and try to return as much as possible through strawberry angel food dessert and cuddling. Thank you for all your comments and support. I honestly thought this would get completely buried in with all the other stories. I can assure you that I'm all right now and much better away from that. I don't blame myself anymore for it, and I'm pretty satisfied with my life at the moment.